Brendan, thank you so much for taking your time for the interview today.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
First thing I want to ask is, obviously you've been doing music for quite a long time now. Who would you listen to when you were younger? Who would inspire you?
Well, my first true inspiration was Angus Young from AC/DC. I just wanted to be Angus Young when I was, 10 or 11 or whatever. Sort of obsessed. And that kind of carried through until I was about 15. I remained an AC/DC fan, but I kind of switched over to Rush. Primarily because what they were doing was so sort of developed and intricate and challenging. So I kind of wanted to learn how to play that stuff. Keep in mind, everything when I was younger was seen through the context of learning how to play it on guitar. That was about the only thing I did with music. I didn't really dance around to it that much unless I was playing my guitar at the same time. So, so it was mostly AC/DC and Rush early on. Of course, that's not exclusive. Iron Maiden was in there, Metallica was in there, Prince was in there. I went through a phase where I was sort of like when I was 13 for a few months, where I was completely obsessed with Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. But yeah, it was mostly AC/DC earlier as a teenager, and then Rush later on as a teenager, and Metallica. Yeah.
I will come back onto the Iron Maiden bit a little bit later. Wheatus actually started in 1995. How does that feel when you think about it now, thinking that you started this band 18 years ago?
It really doesn't feel like that much time. I don't feel that I've changed too much. In some ways I have, but not. I don't feel like I've changed physically. So I still feel like the same person a little bit. But it doesn't just. The only way to explain it is to say that I don't think it feels that long. It is 18 years. 18 years is a long time. 18 years is the difference between an infant and a man. But but it just doesn't feel like that. I don't know why. Time displacement. I think that what is probably more interesting than how long the band has been around is how much change in the music industry my band has seen. That's like not even the music industry. Forget that. Just the development of communications in the whole world since the band has been alive has just been insane. So yeah, really, I think that's a more interesting story than how long the band has been around. What's changed since we came on,
Because Wheatus came in obviously at the start of the post-grunge era. That was obviously just when Foo Fighters was starting to become established. You started having bands like Blink-182 also coming onto the scene. What was it about when you first started the band? What was it that you thought you wanted to achieve with Wheatus?
Well, I don't even know. That's a ridiculous answer. The answer is I wanted to make songs that people wanted to pay to see, and to be in a band that was good enough to play them for real. And that was much harder than I thought it would be. Obviously, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But I think that early on, what I wanted to insulate myself from whatever was going on in the music business, and make music, make a song or make a record or whatever. Every time we did it, that was sort of like a weapon that would go out there and do our work for us, and we wouldn't have to, deal with the relationships of the sort of politics of the music industry and all that stuff. So we were trying to insulate ourselves from that, I think, or I was. That was probably the mindset on the first record. Let's make this record so good that it goes out there and does its own work, and we won't have to schmooze or know the right people or any of that stuff. It'll just be out there on its merit. Yeah, that was I think probably the goal. subconsciously at least.
2000 was the year that your debut album, self-titled Wheatus album, came out. What was it like when you were first starting to write, when you were starting to put these songs together?
Well, it's just me. I was living on a living room floor, which was converted into an apartment with a futon, and I was writing and recording these songs just by myself with a 4-track, with a drum machine and a bass and my guitar, and singing. And I was really just kind of trying to figure out like where my voice was, and like, you know, how to make a record, how to put these elements together into a record, you know, because I didn't want to waste anybody's time. I wanted to kind of get my head around it before I invited other people to the party, and that turned out to be beneficial, because when you know, when I started including members in the band, there wasn't any kind of like arguments or anything about what the songs were like. They were already there, you know. And I've done it that way ever since. So it is kind of a solo project for me, Wheatus, in terms of the writing. Now, that said, all these years later, I finally have guys on board who, you know, who I can really, we read each other's minds musically, you know. Matthew Milligan and Kevin Garcia, worked with a guy named Gerard Hoffman, who's no longer in the band, but he's like he's one of my like musical soulmates. And we've got it to a point where it's like it really clicks and makes a lot of sense in the real world, instead of just by myself with a 4-track. So yeah, and it was a really, like, you know, I was paying like $200 a month rent to live on somebody's floor in just outside of Queens in New York. So that's the scene. And I was working at a company fixing printers. So I was like wearing a little tie to work every day, and then coming home and working on, you know, Hey Mr. Brown and Love Is a Month from Hell and Sunshine and all that stuff.
The big breakout for you was Teenage Dirtbag. As soon as that song came out, I think people just went mad for it. It was just everywhere. What was it like the first time that someone said to you that your song Teenage Dirtbag's got #1, or your song is being played on the radio? What was that like?
It was funny. It was a phone conversation, right? I was on the phone with somebody, and it was our A&R guy, and he's like, "You just came in at #2 in the UK, and you know, it's happening. The song's gonna stick, you know." And I was like, "What does that mean? Stick? I don't get it." I really didn't like know what that meant at the time. All these years later, like, it has stuck around like with a vengeance, that song. But at the time, I felt like this sort of, I couldn't connect with it, because I was in my mother's house in New York, and I was on the phone with our A&R guy. That was the scene when that happened, when he told me, and I thought, like, England. Does that mean we're going to England? You know, and it was true. We were going to England, and all these people were there all of a sudden, you know. So it was very, very kind of almost shocking. Like, made me nervous, and I felt like, oh boy, you know, this, now I have to actually like be good enough to do this. And I had been thinking that the whole way, but when the pressure's on, all of a sudden you re-examine your right to be there, you know? And that's what it felt like. I was like, oh, you know, oh shit. It's happening. Okay, cool. Let's practice a lot, you know? So, yeah, it was pretty fantastic. The stuff of dreams, really, but also the stuff of nerves, you know?
It's hard to believe that song came out over a decade ago now, but even just a little while ago, it re-entered the UK chart. I mean, that doesn't happen to too many artists. How did that feel when you got told, "Oh, you're back in the top 40"?
I thought it was a joke. Actually, it happened. The first time it re-entered was 2011, and it was in the spring of 2011. And I was like, "What? Somebody's playing around with me on the internet." And it turned out to be true. And I eventually got on the phone with BBC. I think it was maybe Greg James I was talking to. And we were live on the air, and they were asking me what what I thought, and it was the same thing all over again. It was like, I don't know, I have no idea. How did this? I don't know. You should know how you know how this happened. You work in radio. How did it happen? You know, and it's just, and then it happened again in 2012, which was like, what? Why? You know, like, and I think it has something to do with us coming over there to tour. And when we tour over there, we go to all the nooks and crannies. You know, we go to the Loughboroughs and the Peter Lees and the Hulls and you know, the Guernseys and we go everywhere because we feel like that's what we wanted to do with our lives. We wanted to go and play in a band that goes everywhere. You know, so I think that might have something to do with why it keeps coming back, because we keep coming back a little bit. But more than that, it's the song, and it's this cultural wave that keeps coming back and repeating. My father said to me that I was kind of puzzling over it, and he was like, well, every kid is going to go through that stage in their lives where they're an outcast. And there's never going to be a generation of kids that doesn't relate to that in some way. So it's like, you know, it's like a seasonal thing, you know. And I thought, well, that makes sense, I guess. But you don't take these things for granted, so it's always a surprise, you know.
During the time when Teenage Dirtbag came out, there was a lot of acts who, after their first song, they just sort of disappeared. That was it, they were gone. But you came back for a second single, which was a cover of Erasure's A Little Respect, and it didn't just do well, it did pretty much just as well as the previous track. What was it like when you were then told, oh, you've got another hit in the UK?
Great, you know, let's go tour there again. Let's do theaters this time instead of clubs. That's what I thought. Like, oh man, let's do it. You know, like it's the only instinct in me that keeps getting triggered, like initially, aside from the nerves, is just, ooh, let's build the stage show. Like, let's do, you know, we have our chance now. You know, they want us again. Let's go. So, you know, it was that. It was just like, wow. And I knew that it was kind of like we did a lot of covers early on, and all the covers that we picked were songs that I really connected with. There was never a time when somebody was like, hey, why don't you play that Eagles song that I like so much, and we'll put it on your record. That never happened, thankfully. So you know, we did covers in the set early on, and the only one that kind of made sense to put on the album was A Little Respect, because it just vibed in a way that was where it felt like a Wheatus song, and it felt like Andy Bell and Vince Clarke's song. So it came together and just. It made a ton of sense, so we did it on the record. Now, I didn't think that meant that it would become a single or anything like that, but when it did, obviously it made even more sense because it was English, and those guys were from England, but a lot of people kind of got a little bent out of shape when that first happened, because we were accused by a few people of not knowing Erasure and just following orders from the record label or something like that, which is fucking nonsense. That song was played at every Sweet 16 that I ever was lucky enough to get invited to, and it was on the radio here in New York on a station called WDRE, basically on repeat when I was a kid, and I loved that song. That and Chains of Love were both these two tracks that kept coming back into my life. And you know, when I became a musician, I learned how to play them, and I played them from the time I was a teenager. You know, I'll confess to being a metalhead and not necessarily being into Brit pop when I was younger. But when you're a musician, when you're playing music, you try everything. It doesn't, you know, just because you don't buy tickets to go see Morrissey when you're 13 doesn't mean that you didn't learn how to play How Soon Is Now. You know, so I mean, it kind of a little bit, it bothered me a little bit that people thought we were faking it with that. And I was like, no. This is just as important to me as, you know, musically as other things. And, you know, but in the end, it was great because everybody kind of embraced it. And, you know, we we went over there, and now now people are shouting for it, you know, so it's cool.
In your first album, you do name drop a few bands, including Iron Maiden, and I just want to know, because you did say you've performed a lot of covers. Did you ever do an Iron Maiden cover?
Not in Wheatus. We've actually in rehearsal we've messed around with Run to the Hills and Number of the Beast. I used to play a ton of Iron Maiden covers in a covers band that I was in college. So yeah, there was, and you know, growing up I learned how to play all that stuff. So it's there. We can do it. We just didn't want to overdose people with Iron Maiden. And one of the things, remember Party in the Park?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
We played that in 2000, I think it was 2004 or 2003, I can't remember which. I played a little bit of Wasted Years at the end of Teenage Dirtbag, and they cut it out. Can you believe that? So, I mean, you know, we do play Iron Maiden. We enjoy it, trying to play it ourselves. I'll tell you something, though. That shit's hard to play. You got to put your helmet on to learn how to play Iron Maiden properly. You know, like Nico McBrain is a drummer from hell, and you know that's you know, you got to take a break when you're done with one of their songs. That's like serious business, you know.
Yeah, because a lot of people obviously remember that time, but you have always been releasing music and you have been continuing. What's it been like, say, writing your most recent material compared to when you wrote the first album? How's that felt? Has it felt different, or has it been the same? What's that been?
Well, it got very different for album 3, 4, and 5. Those Too Soon Monsoon, the Lightning EP, and the Jupiter EP got very different for us. They were recorded as live records, whereas the first one was recorded piece by piece, instrument by instrument, and you know, I'm writing differently because of that, because of the live, because we were performing them live while we were recording. But this most recent one, album 6, is 10 new songs that are all done kind of the way that the first record was done, except that they're being done by the band that learned how to play together, making 3 live records. So that's the difference. I'm trying my best to take the goodies from each like incarnation and pile them on, you know, and try and make a record that feels live but it has the sort of open, direct clarity of album 1, you know. And that's what's going on right now. That's, you know, where I'm in the middle of that. I'm recording guitars right now, today in fact, but yeah, and they're sort of thematically we're kind of went to like this post-apocalyptic love story stuff. Like, what would it be like falling in love after the zombies ate everybody, and the banks destroyed the world, and you know. Oh,
that's already happened. That bit.
Right. So I guess that's why I'm writing it, because it's actually real.
You were saying earlier that you've come back to the UK time and time again. And you are actually coming back again. Is it in the about September, October time?
Yeah, we're looking to do maybe 20 or 30 dates in September and October in England, Scotland, and Wales. I'm dying to try and get to Ireland as well. We'll see if that's in the cards. But yeah, we're doing and Northern Ireland. We're doing those dates in September, and the first one's on sale right now, October 12th at the Borderline, which is actually in London, which is actually my the day after my birthday. So we're doing a birthday show.
Awesome.
Yeah, should be cool.
I will make a request now, because I'm hoping to get to that gig. I want to request that you do an Iron Maiden track.
Which one?
Joe, I would love to hear Number of the Beast.
Really? Complete with the whole, like, you know.
You could do the opening
narration.
Well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I'll give it my best shot, but we are obligated to play the entire first record at that show, so we'll see if we can squeeze it in.
Awesome. You are coming back to the UK, and you will be doing these shows. What's the audience? What does it feel like when you're actually performing to an audience that that you're away from home? Because obviously when you've been in New York, obviously you know that crowd so well, but what's it like when you're in another country performing for someone?
I don't know. It doesn't feel like that at all. England has always felt like home, because Teenage Dirtbag and the first album were embraced so warmly over there, like, and instantly. It's never felt like an alien place. It's never felt like, we don't belong, or it's not our crowd. I'm actually an Irish passport holder, so I kind of almost feel like a citizen in some ways, even though I don't live there. But I just don't get the feeling of alienation when we're playing in front of English crowds. They feel like our own. They always have. I think that they're a bit. They can be a bit more rowdy, especially up north.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah,
but yes, it's it feels like home. It doesn't feel strange.
You've already told me a lot of the musicians you like, a lot of the bands that you've listened to, but I just want to know that if you ever got the opportunity to actually work with one of these acts or one of these musicians, who would you choose, and why would you choose that person?
Any musician to work.
Any musician you want.
Oh man, that's so hard. Christ, it would probably well, Rush doesn't need any help from me. so they would be first, but they're off because they don't write like that. I would say I would jump up and down for the opportunity to do something with Willie Nelson. That would be. He had such an effect on my parents used to listen to him when I was a kid, and I still listen to him. And it's one of those things that's really in there. And a lot of when I first picked up the acoustic guitar, a lot of the songs that were playing around the house were Willie Nelson songs, off of the Red-Headed Stranger album. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that is a masterpiece. And I think I would really want to put that, in the pool room, as it were. That would be one of the highlights of my life, to be able to work with Willie Nelson. But like, are you talking about like somebody recent, modern? Is that what you mean?
No, anyone that you want. I mean, because Willie Nelson definitely is is a music legend. And
yeah, I was going to say he's pretty recent and modern still. He's still trucking.
Bring him over with you when you come to London.
Oh man, he doesn't need our help, but I would jump at it. That would be my first choice. Willie Nelson, write a song with Willie Nelson.
Joe, what? I'd love to see that happen. There, that you said it.
We have one thing definitely in common. We both play acoustic guitars as if they're electric. So we that's kind of sort of an idea that I got from him a little bit, because he plays his old acoustic through a pair of Trainer tube amps, like electric guitar amps, which is weird and uncommon, and most people would say you can't do it, which is why I thought Willie's got it. Willie knows what he's doing. Do what Willie does, and I figured out like another way to do it in my own version. But that comes from Willie, that idea.
Brendan, I just want to say first a massive thank you for taking your time for the interview, and thank you for taking your time today. And you said you're going to do some recording today as well. Yeah,
laying down guitars for the first song on album 6. Album 6 is called the Valentine LP. And like I said, it's 10 new tracks. So I'm hoping to have it finished, mixed, and I'm by August. And if everything goes well, and we have the flow going right, I'm going to try and get Phil Jimenez to mix the record. You remember Phil Jimenez, right? He was our percussion player, co-produced the first album with me. Yep. Yeah. So he's got back in touch with him recently, and we'll try and get him to mix the 6th album that we're making. So fingers crossed. Cool. Hopefully that'll be ready on sale when you come over. Yeah. Indeed, I think it will. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will. Brilliant. Right, well, Brendan, once again, thank you so much, and I mean, good luck with everything at Wheatus. Good luck with the brand new album, and hopefully get to talk to you again very soon. Thanks, John. I'll speak to you soon, man.